All right. It's time to go back to KOTOR again with Volume 7, Dueling Ambitions. And this is broken up into three different story arcs that kind of overall have the same plot. Same plot idea. We'll start with 36 and 37, which are called Profit Motive. And in this, Zane and crew are trying to rip off this auction where they auction off planets that people haven't ever seen for their resources, and there's also a slave ring going on, and Zane, Griff, Jariel, Roland are all trying to take that down. And it's a pretty good story. Well worth your time, and it's pretty fun. Next is Faithful Execution, which is issue 38. Now, this is a cool little horror one-shot. Zane and crew encounter ship in space that all the crew and passengers are dead except for one little alien and his trusted droid servant. And it's pretty interesting, and it's also kind of an LB story. LB is the cargo lifting droid that's been in here throughout. They just kind of feel bad for him. And like he has abandonment issues and stuff. And he was good friends with Camper. Now Camper's gone. And Camper made it so that he could speak because he wasn't designed to speak originally. So it's an interesting LB story. And good character study. Also creepy. It's genuinely creepy and well worth your time. And lastly, we get to issues 39 through 41, which is Dueling Ambitions. And Dueling Ambitions, Zane and crew are trying to rip off someone at it's a swoop battle royale. It's like a race, but also they have to fight one another. It's kind of fun. But it turns out that a lot of the contestants are slaves. So you see where this is all kind of thematically the same. And so they have to deliberate things. And it's an interesting story. More so because we're starting to see where the final big arc is going, especially in the last three issues, 39 through 41. We start to see Roland's becoming quite the different character. He's changed quite a bit. And Jariel, we start to find out her backstory now. We got a little bit of that before now, but we're really starting to get into this is Jariel's big character arc is beginning to happen now. Overall, what did I think of this story? These three stories? I think it's fantastic. This is one of my favorite KOTOR volumes. This or Volume 6, they're tied as my favorites. This has better art overall, though, than the last volume did. And this was probably the last one I read for a long time. This is 2009 this came out. And by this point, I was about to graduate from 8th grade. And I was starting to leave Star Wars behind. This, mind you, this was right about when the TCW movie happened. It's right around this time. And the TCW movie, words cannot describe how embarrassed I was to be a Star Wars fan when TCW happened. Like, people nowadays, especially like a lot of the Gen Z kids who were like little when that movie came out, and like they don't really remember the movie, they remember the show more. But that movie was a theatrically released piece of trash. It was horrible. It was embarrassing. It looked ugly. It didn't make any sense why it even existed. Although for every little bit of continuity it had in it, it just started breaking continuity, and it put a bad taste in my mouth because this is right around the time we see the whole Lucasfilm shift. I do believe TCW came out in '08. Came out in '08. So when these happened, this is right around the time where I just said no with Star Wars. Season 1 of TCW was out, which is the only season I watched while it aired of TCW, and I didn't watch all of it. In fact, I was, up until the Disney buyout, it had never been more embarrassing to be a Star Wars fan than it was in the late 2000s. Because all the things I liked, Star Wars-wise, were pretty much beginning to be ripped apart, if that makes any sense. Sure, the novels at this point in the post-Jedi stuff have begun to deteriorate, for lack of a better term. We were into what Quality Autism calls the Denning-verse, where Troy Denning had way too much control over things, and suddenly the post-Jedi stuff was just like the prequels for no reason. The continuity was just kind of thrown out the window, and people just started doing whatever the hell they felt like. And KOTOR, for me, was this last stand for the expanding universe as I knew it, where we were still connecting to things. The Old Republic there was no MMO yet. The MMO wasn't a thing yet. There weren't that many books. I think we just had the Bane trilogy. We had Tales of the Jedi when that was still considered Old Republic. So ironic that's not anymore. But overall, we didn't really have a lot of Old Republic stuff, and Old Republic had quality control. But there was only so much I could take of dealing with the trash. When you have more trash than you do treasures, you kind of just give up. And so we now get to a very dark time in my teenage years where for a long time, Star Wars was kind of my escapism from just really shitty schooling and dealing with really shitty people. I mean, we talked about it on Backpedalers and stuff, and I talked about it in my interview with Stevie. But, shit got bad in my life, and so I look at this, and it's very bittersweet to read these 6 issues in particular, because shit was about to go really bad in my life, and this is like the last hurrah. That's not to say I don't like the next 3 volumes of KOTOR. It's just it took a long time to get there, and that's pretty much what I have. Where I rank this is 5 out of 5. It's well worth your time to check out. And we'll talk more about my sort of... When we get to the next volume, we'll talk more about what happened in my life, what I could piece together. And talk some more KOTOR. And I'm really excited to do that. So anyway, have a good one.